Cape St. Clair area, and I see some familiar faces. There is a God, and our rights come from him. And the purpose of civil government is to protect and to defend and secure those God-given rights. And I'm paraphrasing Thomas Jefferson. I happen to believe this myself, very passionately, as a matter of fact. But what I'm paraphrasing is Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. He said, he began by actually quoting Blackstone and referring to the laws of nature and nature's God as the basic argument by which we could separate ourselves from Great Britain and claim our independence. So the very American view of law and government basically goes like this. There's a God. Our rights they come from him. They're not privileges of government. We don't have rights because government says so. Our government is there to protect those God-given rights. And this is enshrined in our Declaration, as I say. And lest you think that this is just some fancy philosophical principle, it's really more than that. It's the law of the land. The U.S. Code actually refers to the Declaration of Independence as the organic law of America. So things that are out of context with that, out of harmony with that, are really not law. And as a matter of fact, in our Declaration, those kind of things were called pretended legislation. Things that, like the Stamp Act, and the Townsend Acts, and the Intolerable Acts, things that Parliament was doing, and the King was doing, our founders said, that's not law. That's pretended legislation. Now, why is all that important? Well, we need to remember that today, I believe, because many things that are done and forced upon us here at a county level by higher levels of government are really not in keeping with the Constitution. So, in our founders' words, they really are pretended legislation. And nothing, I think, has caused more turmoil and maybe a best example of this lately than what we know as the rain tax. I have to be honest with you. I went to the county council meetings. I started going about 2.5 years ago, just for my own education, with some friends, with some others who were interested in local government. And I was frankly appalled at what I saw going on. I saw out of control spending. I saw a lack of reference to the Constitution, or in our case, our Constitution here locally is the county charter. I saw almost no reference to that. I was very concerned. And as a matter of fact, I also saw, and maybe you saw it too, I saw some arrogance on the part of some of our county council people who limited the time that people could talk to 120 seconds. You get 120 seconds of free speech in front of the county council. And I saw what I consider to be an arrogance and a disrespect, if you will, to people who came there. And since then, as I have mentioned to you, the last straw for me really was this rain tax, which I saw as ungodly, immoral, unconstitutional, and I consider it to be what our founders would have called pretended legislation. I am very much opposed to the rain tax. I will do everything that I can do to repeal it. I obviously can't do that myself, but I will introduce legislation to repeal the rain tax. I promise you that I will never vote, never, ever, ever vote for a tax increase. As I've walked your neighborhoods here, and as I've talked in other neighborhoods, I have talked to people. I remember one military family, one military lady who said that when her husband's tour was up, I said, well, will you stay? And she said, how can I? I've talked to residents here that are just frustrated with the taxes. By the way, did anybody get their tax bill today or recently in the last day or so? Yeah. You see a $65 or $85 charge for that, for the rain tax? By the way, they've done an end run around the tax cap by calling that a fee, but it shows up on your tax bill, doesn't it? And as a matter of fact, it's going to show up more in the next year and the next year, because after they passed the rain tax, they passed a bill to limit its phase-in so that it doesn't really hit you for two years, but it's going to hit you to more than double what it did. I see this kind of out-of-control situation. I'm 61 years old. I really didn't think I'd have a career in politics, but I am willing to do this job, and I am willing to represent you and your interests And I'm willing to call things pretended legislation if in fact they are. If they're out of keeping with the Constitution, and by the way, if they're out of keeping with God's moral law as well. Because those are the two standards by which our founders were able to say, no, these things are pretended legislation, and we're not going to abide by them. As a matter of fact, we see a long train of usurpations and abuses, and we're going to stand against it. If you'd like somebody to keep, by the way, I believe that probably the wind tax is coming, and you probably know a mileage tax is coming, unless somebody stands in your county council and says, not here, not here, not here in Maryland. We're not doing that here. We're going to stand against that. Other counties have stood against the rain tax, but Anne Arundel County didn't. It just bowed over and did it. Our county council, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, said that water is not a pollutant, and so you can't tax it. They ruled the rain tax unconstitutional. But that didn't stop our Anne Arundel County Council. They still adopted it. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to belabor the point. I am willing to stand on the bridge, like Horatio at the bridge, on your behalf if you'll have me. If you want more taxes, don't vote for me. If you want more spending, please don't vote for me. If you want somebody who will work very diligently to try to control those things like you do in your personal economy, I ask for your vote. PeroutkaForCouncil.com. Thank you very much.